What conspiracy theory do you completely believe is true? A lot of entertainment companies are money laundering fronts. Don't even get me started on Entertainment 720. Prestige Worldwide 2. Epstein didn't kill himself. I'm on the middle ground in this one. I think he did kill himself, but only when someone visited his cell and told him to either do it himself or, suffer much worse consequences. Of course, during that visit, the cameras mysteriously turned off and both guards decided to take a nap. Considering that a few weeks before the hanging his cellmate, a former cop, beat the crap out of him, it wouldn't surprise me. Why was a chomo given a cellmate? Why was that cellmate a cop? Especially since cops are normally kept away from Gen Pop. The Big Mac has gotten smaller so McDonald's saves some money. I dunno, but I swear the Big Mac used to be bigger. Or maybe I'm just fatter. This is a pretty common business tactic, and there's been a hell of a lot of research into it. Companies know consumers are happier paying the same amount for a, often unnoticeable, reduced portion rather than seeing a price increase for the same item. It's called shrinkflation. The CIA is responsible for the crack epidemic. Along with that, I think the theory of the CIA placing random crates of guns in black neighborhoods to escalate gang violence is also probable. That the CIA let JFK get assassinated. A time traveler has traveled back in time to the year 1963. However, he does not know the exact date. He sees a CIA agent nearby and asks him, is today before or after the JF? Before. J. Edgar Hoover had ties to the mob and gave preferential treatment to certain crime families/organizations while crushing others. Also, his stranglehold on American intelligence made him a figure presidents feared. My understanding was that, specifically, the mob had photos of him and his boyfriend doing boyfriend stuff, which is a pretty intense threat when you're the no queers or commas guy. They had a habit of staying at a mob-owned hotel together. Awful compromising position to put yourself in if you're the surveillance czar, and a hell of a coincidence at that. I got a pretty harmless one. Stevie Wonder Camp C. The world's elites are in on it, which almost got blown open when George W. Bush waved at him. Didn't Shaq say he ran into him in an elevator once, and Stevie Wonder said, "Hey, Shaq," before Shaq said anything? That's crazy. The odds of him just guessing it was him must be like finding a needle in a haystack. Automobile and oil companies have been working to impede or hide developments in renewable energy solutions. There is actually a lot of evidence for this. I was a climate activist before seeing it, but the Years of Living Dangerously documentary series pretty well confirmed to me that big oil, gas, and coal companies are standing in the way of renewable energy solutions. Which is dumb, because you'd think they'd want to pioneer those fields and define legislature before anyone can say free energy. I'm in the Navy and we change uniforms a lot compared to other branches. There's a conspiracy theory that there's a rear admiral whose wife has stocks in the company that makes our uniform. I just randomly heard someone talking about it. I have zero evidence that it's true, but I 100% believe it. Yeah, the Navy seems to change their uniforms way too much. Op is likely right. The military is the human centipede of nepotism spending. If private companies want to make any money off the military, you better hire influential ex-military. I worked for one of these companies. We supplied software for Navy aircraft systems. They spent millions for this software. The company that was providing the software was run by an ex-high-ranking Navy man, puppet seer. The software was the exact same they already had and owned intellectual rights to, an older version. By the time this crappy run company provided the Navy with this new copied version of the software, the tech stack was already so outdated, and the original software vendor had better versions. I was told it was over 100 million spent. This for something they already had. Well, the government is listening to everyone's phone calls, and reading our emails was once considered a conspiracy theory, and we all know how that turned out. Many years ago, I walked into a Barnes & Noble and spotted a guy sitting alone at a card table near the entrance, the table stacked with books. We had a nice chat. He told me how he got started writing the book, his first. He was teaching at a prep school where the Secret Service showed up at 7 AM and banged on a dorm door. The student had emailed the night before, words to the effect that someone should shoot the president. That got the author interested in the NSA, and he wrote a novel about it. While researching the book, he was emailing with various ex-NSA people to get background on the agency. One time he emailed, should we be encrypting these emails? He received a reply stating, 1. There isn't any encryption you could do that would hinder the NSA. 2. I'm not telling you anything I shouldn't. 3. The plutonium arrives on Thursday, praise Allah. Dan Brown before he hit it big. All that stupid stuff shared on Facebook is just a way for people to mine your information for forgotten passwords, resets and stuff. Things like, bet no one remembers the street they grew up on. I'll wait. Or, what would your name be if you took your mom's name instead of your dad's? Actually how hacking is mainly done lol. Not much hacking into the mainframe, mostly just social engineering. Calling healthcare workers heroes is a deliberate ploy by the powers that be, so that at the end of all this covered crap and there is a pile of us dead, the conversation isn't about how the government and hospitals fucked up, but our heroic sacrifice. My husband is a nurse. I'm tired of the admins at the hospital he works at calling him a freaking hero and patting him on the back telling him that nurses are the backbone of the hospital, but paying him crap money. If nurses are such heroes then they should be paid accordingly. 6 long years of grueling school, and he makes so little that our family of 5 is still under the poverty line. And that is fricked up. My conspiracy theory is that nurses are given so much praise and positive attention by the healthcare industry so that people will overlook the fact that they are wildly overworked and underpaid. Absolutely agree. BS platitudes and compliments are free. If they actually felt that way they'd pay them appropriately. Tommy Wiseau is DB Cooper. For those of you who don't know, DB Cooper is a famous American thief aboard a plane flying from Seattle, Washington to Mexico City. Before the plane was over Reno, Nevada, DB Cooper robbed everyone on the plane, took all of the parachutes, and jumped out of the plane, and was never seen again. Nobody knew his name, and he spoke with a strange accent. Tommy Wiseau showed up seemingly randomly with a ton of money, has been said to be older than he says he is, and speaks with a strange accent. At one point people found a ton of money which was said to be DB's ransom money or stash, and the guy they were investigating didn't look much like him, and the evidence was never convincing and the whole attempt was some History Channel bullcrap. Tommy Wiseau however fits the bill. In the skydiving community this comes up every so often. DB Cooper died in the jump. He jumped into heavy forest at night. Even with a round canopy that's dodgy as frick. He had basically no control over where he landed. Even if he landed safely he had no way of knowing where he was and thus how to get out. Wasn't some of the money found buried or submerged somewhere, indicating that he did survive? This one pertains to my university, but some people may have the same experiences with this. So students who choose my university send applications in by December. The entire COVID shutdown happens in March, around the same time university acceptances are starting to be sent out. Each first year student has guaranteed residence. Everyone is wondering what the new teaching model will be, and it's announced that it's mixed 30% in person, 70% online. At this point, if you're in first year and all your courses are online, why pay for residence? You can do class online. But the university sees these discussions and know they'll lose a lot of money if they don't have students in residence. So what is announced? Almost every first year has at least one person class, meaning they have to be on campus, meaning they have to live in residence. IDK if this makes sense to anyone, but I thought it was interesting. This is true. I've deferred my application this year because I just didn't deem it worthy if it was going to be mostly online. May have shot myself in the foot though, because God knows how bad it'll be next year. In my home city, in the UK, a heroin dealer was convicted of lacing his product with poison and causing the deaths of homeless people. In court he claimed that the local council paid him off to get rid of some of the homeless people in that way. His defense was, why would I kill my customers? I have met one person that worked with the council and believes the story to be true, and years later I met some people that had worked with a homeless charity at the time. They claimed they knew it was the case, but there was nothing they could do to prove it, expose it. That wouldn't even surprise me if that was true. I hate to say this one, because it's probably the most ridiculous, but I genuinely believe that Trump family being time travelers is possible. The background behind the conspiracy is somewhat uncanny and all the sources are incredibly legitimate, but I never hear about it. Pretty much, it starts with an author from the late 1800s, Ingersoll Lockwood, who wrote a handful of books. The first is a fantasy book called The Marvelous Adventures of Baron Trump, about a Baron Trump who was mentored by a Don. Baron and Don are technically titles in the book, but also the name of Trump and his youngest son. The book touches on some issues with power and vanity by leaders in power and creates a huge parallel between fantasy and generally crappy/arrogant people. Not a lot of connection there, except the names and essentially describing Trump in the fantasy characters. The other important book is the one that hits home, The Last President, by the exact same author, is about a wealthy man in New York who is elected president, but he wasn't expected to and people are incredibly upset, rioting, etc., mostly over capitalists taking over the country. Chapter 1 literally opens up with riots overpowering police after an election on November 3, 1896, saying that the Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob. Now, some connections beyond the obvious. November 3, 2020 happens to be election day this year. The Fifth Avenue Hotel mentioned in the book has been replaced by none other than Trump Tower. The secretary in the book is Leif Pence. Coincidence, right? Well, fast forward a bit, because in the 1940s before he died, Nikola Tesla had made tons of other invention claims, like perfecting his death beam, progress in a time machine, etc. Also during that time, the FBI had an office of alien property like foreign not UFOs, from which the assistant FBI director Foxworth had sent people to seize all of Tesla's research shortly after he died, in hopes some of it may be useful. Well, after seizing it, they hired none other than Dr. John Trump, Donald Trump's uncle, to solely analyze all the paperwork under federal custody to keep privacy. Dr. Trump publicly claimed that the research was only speculative and did not include new, sound, workable principles or methods for realizing such results. The Tesla papers were never published, and, after a few decades, majority of his research was deemed lost by both the US government and the Soviet Union, and what remains is somewhere in Yugoslavia, I believe at a museum. So essentially, the idea is that Trump's uncle discovered time travel through Tesla's research and hid/copied what was valuable or dangerous to keep out of government control. Then him, Baron, or someone, or all, in the family has used it to create the wealth that the Trump family has. Theoretically, time travel may not work like we see in movies, so what they can accomplish could be limited to a few good choices and leaving their mark behind in these books. Is it possible the author was the time traveler? Honestly, considering the evidence, it seems far more likely. Granted, its likeliness in my mind is still less than 1% that this is the case than the other way around. It's my own, but I'm convinced. I work on the social media side in a large e-commerce company. Facebook is trying to get TikTok banned because it's the next big platform. A few months ago we had an advertisement meeting with TikTok employees. They showed us charts and numbers. In July, TikTok had around 855 million monthly active users, with the average user spending around 80 minutes a day on TikTok. That is insane on a per average user. I think Facebook is in bed with the government, possibly even selling our data to them, and Facebook/Instagram usage is trending down, and since TikTok is Chinese owned and can't be bought, Facebook is leveraging the government to ban it, while tricking everyone into believing that TikTok is a spy device. When Instagram was getting popular, Facebook bought them. WhatsApp was getting popular, so they bought them too. They can't do that with TikTok. Facebook knows they're headed downwards, they see the trend. So I believe they are pushing the government to ban it while brainwashing the public into believing that TikTok is nothing more than a spy device in your pocket for the Chinese government. TikTok is seriously not that bad, and after spending time on the back end and on the platform and talking with employees, they are trying to make money on advertising, not through some conspiracy foreign tracking spy device. I've seen the posts here on Reddit that scream astrotithing, that try to sound legit, but really have no evidence. Listen, if a foreign government is trying to spy on another country's users, they are not doing it through watching teenagers do the WAP dance. Facebook and Instagram is terrifying about what they know about you and how their algorithms can predict your purchasing habits before you even know you want a certain product, not even counting how the platforms track you physically and digitally. Facebook is really who you should be scared of. Screw Facebook.